What's up, Dolphins fans? Welcome into Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend and is ready to talk some Miami Dolphins football here. As we are inching closer and closer to training camp, Miami will get things underway next week. And on today's show, we're going to talk about how a big move may be coming from now until next week. We could also look at how the Dolphins are getting screwed by the NFL, and more specifically the Texans and Browns. We'll also talk a little bit about how we have exciting news potentially coming for Miami, and then we'll round out today's show by doing a Q&A as well. So appreciate everybody joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully the Dolphins fans are excited and ready to talk some football. And as we always like to start our live show, shout out your city for me down in the comments section. Where are the real ones watching from? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know. We got Bill in Syracuse, New York. We got Soto in Melbourne, Florida. Jerusalem in Miami. Xi is in Northern New York. Helma is in Germany. Nick is in Denver. Jorge is in Georgia. T is in South Carolina. Grayson's in Mississippi, Hickory, North Carolina, Broward from Bubba, St. Louis from Alex, New York from Richard, Ohio for Ethan, West Palm Beach for JB, Jacksonville for Peaches, Armando and Brett are in Florida, Irish is in Ireland. How about that, folks? Guam from Richard, Midtown Miami from Terrence. Look at all the different areas of the world that we're in. We're worldwide here at Dolphins Today. Should I be called Mr. Worldwide or should it be still Pitbull? I feel like I might take the reins from that. I mean, look at all the people across the world we got in the chat here. We know we got that over at the Heat Report too. I might be Mr. Worldwide. Lopez, should I take that name from Pitbull? I feel like I have a case.
That's definitely a claim, especially, because he is also Mr. Miami.
Exactly.
Mr. 305.
Yeah. Listen, he can only have one of them. He can either have Mr. 305 or Mr. Worldwide. I'll take the other. I'm fine with that. Which one do you think is better? Would it be better to be crowned Mr. 305 or Mr. Worldwide?
Mr. Worldwide's a tough-ass name.
That's a tough name.
It's tough.
Tough name. That's good stuff. Let me respond here, and then we'll get moving here. All right, folks. Here's a question. It's our live poll of the day as well. Over or under 8.5 wins for Miami in 2025? O for over, U for under. So if you think the Dolphins will go over, that means they have to go 9-8 this season. If you think they go under, well, that means they would go 8-9 or worse. So let me know. 89% of the live poll believes that the Dolphins will be going over 8.5 wins and winning 9 games with a good winning record this season. To me, I think it's all about how they start the season. If I had to predict it, I think I would lean over because I do think Miami is still the second best team in this division. Now, it is going to be close between them and New England. I think it goes Buffalo 1, interchangeable Miami and New England, and then New York at 4. So it could go either way, but I think the second best team in the AFC East can easily get to 9 wins. I mean, they've got a relatively okay schedule. I mean, they need to take advantage of an easy start. You're going up against the Colts, Bills, Jets, Patriots in your first 4 games. To me, you got to be 3-1, especially with the game against the Patriots and Jets being at home in week 3 and 4. You got to take advantage. And then you play Carolina in week 5. You play Cleveland in week 7? Yeah, because you play Chargers in week 7, Cleveland week 7, week 6 Chargers. I don't know if I misspoke there. Browns week 7, Falcons week 8. Like, you go through those 8 games right there. I think Miami has to be 6-2 or 5-3. Ideally, they go 6-2, and then if you can just go 4-5 the rest of the way, it's a 10-7 year, and you're probably in the playoffs. So you just got to start off hot. You have to be 3-1. If we'll be honest, you have to be 3-1. You got to beat the Jets and Patriots at home. You got to beat the Colts on the road. You're probably losing the Buffalo, which is fine. It is what it is. Primetime game, Thursday Night Football. But you got to beat New England at home, especially in September when it's a little bit warmer. You got to beat the Jets when you have a mini bye because you play them on Monday Night Football after playing the Bills on Thursday Night Football the week prior. So you just got to be able to take advantage of that break, the Patriots game at home on a Sunday afternoon in September, and then you got to beat the Colts who don't have a quarterback. If they're able to start the year 3-1 and then navigate a 3-1 or 2-2 next stretch in their 4 and be 5-3 or 6-2, I believe that 9 wins is certainly something that should absolutely happen. So I'm typing my overs. It could go either way. I think it will be close. I think Miami will either win 8 games, 9 games, or 10 games. I mean, it's one of those 3 in my opinion. We'll see, and it's kind of the tough thing. Like Miami might be stuck in purgatory right now to where their roster isn't going to be good enough to compete for a title, but it's not going to be bad enough to get like a top 5 pick to really potentially draft a player that can change your franchise around. But hey, listen, there's players that get drafted all the time in that like teens range that can turn a franchise around. I mean, Micah Parsons. I mean, I know it's a defensive player, but it's a generational player found in that type of range. You see it all the time. So we'll see. But I think Miami does have a chance to make the playoffs this year. I really do. All right, but if they do want to make the playoffs, they're going to need a certain upgrade in the secondary. I have been pining for Asante Samuel Jr. this entire offseason. Do you want to sign who I think is the top corner on the free agent market, Asante Samuel Jr.? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Are you down to sign Asante Samuel Jr.? Despite what his father said, I think he still would be fine coming to the Dolphins. And if he is fine, I would like to bring him in. Richard's saying absolutely. Bill's saying sign. Cameron sign. Peaches is saying sign. Irish. To James is saying pass. Why are you passing to James? Mark says pass. Why are you passing? For the people who are saying pass, let me know why. What did his dad say? Ian basically just dogged the Dolphins. Said Mike McDaniel isn't a leader. Pushover. Chris Grier's got no backbone. So James says it's because of his dad. I mean, I'm not going to blame someone because their dad said something stupid. I mean, Asante Samuel Sr. isn't speaking for Asante Samuel Jr., so I got no problem with that. Asante Samuel Sr. is also a loser. I mean, he's shit-talked the Patriots and Bill Belichick, even though they literally made his career. Right? So it's like, what are you doing? What are we doing here? Mark says, not worth the cat money. Why do you want to see what you have in a 5th-round rookie, a UDFA that has never played an Ethan Bonner, and Storm Duck, who was like below average last year as a UDFA? Like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how you couldn't want to bring in a guy who's been a top 2 corner on his respective team and put up solid numbers and good tape for a bunch of like to see the young guys. Like, if you had any good young guys, like sure. If you drafted a corner in the 2nd round, then like, all right, I'd rather see what you have in him maybe. But I mean, I don't get it. Tristan, we'll talk about that in a second here. Tristan, you're spying on our show because that is certainly in a show coming up here in a second. Which, speaking of our show, once we get to 50 likes, we'll start today's show. You want it to start? Hit that thumbs up icon. We're 13 likes away from 50. We get to 50, we'll get the show started, baby. So hit that thumbs up icon because we do have a loaded show on tap here. And I want to get things started here on a Tuesday afternoon because the Dolphins got screwed. They did by the Texans and the Browns and the NFL as a whole I think a big move may be coming for Miami over the next week or so. Exciting news revolving your wide receiver 1 and QB1, Tua Tagovailoa and Jaylen Waddle. And we'll round out the show as well with a Miami Dolphins mailbag Q&A. Use hashtag Dolphins or Super Chat to get on that mailbag. We'll do that at the end. We'll also ask for questions as we get closer and closer. Once we get 50 likes, though, we'll start today's show, and there it is. We got 52. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon. Want to get 200 likes on this live stream. So you guys taking 1 second out of your day to hit that button when you're tuning in means a lot. And with that finally passing 50 likes, it's time to get into our first segment about how Miami Dolphins is getting screwed by the NFL. In Lopez, when you're ready, let's get into it. Let's get it. We've talked about this in the past, but Jonah Savaiinaea has still not signed his rookie contract after being drafted 38th overall and in the second round. And as more news and evidence comes out around the situation, it's getting more and more sketchy for the Miami Dolphins. And this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we talked about this before, a week or two ago. This was the thumbnail on the video. You see it? Dolphins Today with Jonah Savaiinaea. So if you want to be up to date on everything Miami Dolphins, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay alert for all of our content, because we've talked about this in the past, but there was a little bit of a newer update, which I wanted to showcase again, because we talked about this last week, but as we're filming this today on Tuesday, Jonah still hasn't signed that rookie contract. And we're inching closer and closer to rookies and veterans reporting to Dolphins training camp. And with these two things coming, if he is not under contract, could we potentially see a holdout between Jonah and Miami? We're already starting to see that across the league a little bit here, which is causing me a little bit of an uneasy feeling. And that is why we're here making this video. But I want to take it back about a month, 2 months ago. I forget when it actually happened. I guess May 8th is the exact date. Because the Texans is what got the screwed ball starting. The Texans signed their 34th overall pick, the second overall pick in the second round, Jane Higgins, to an unprecedented contract. It was the first ever second round pick to get the entire rookie 4-year contract guaranteed. First time ever. And then the Browns, who had the 33rd pick in the draft, the first pick of the second round, followed suit with the linebacker out of UCLA, Carson Schlesinger. So Schlesinger and Higgins got fully guaranteed 4-year contracts as second rounders. It has never been done before in the history of the NFL. So now every other player that was taken in the second round is like, hey, my colleagues here got a fully guaranteed deal. I want a fully guaranteed deal. So there are only 2 second-round picks that have signed their contracts, Schlesinger and Jaden Higgins. And as we're getting closer to training camp getting started, we might see holdouts beginning. We saw these rookies go to OTAs and minicamp, but now that it's still this late in the offseason and these aren't kind of coming to a resolution, it's sketchy, man. And Tre Harris, the Chargers, who are playing in the Hall of Fame game, so it's coming a little bit quicker for them, had rookies report. He didn't show up. It's a holdout for this rookie wide receiver out of Ole Miss who was taken the second round. And we might see more and more second-round picks that aren't signed, a.k.a. 30 out of the 32 of them, not show up to their respective training camps. And this is getting very, very dicey, not only for the Miami Dolphins, but the rest of these teams that made selections in the NFL second round. And when you think about it for Miami specifically, this impacts us in such a large way because of how much we are relying on our second round pick to be a starter and a contributor right away. You look at like a player like Tre Harris with LA, like, yeah, does it hurt? Yeah, absolutely. But he's a wide receiver that is their wide receiver 3 behind Mike Williams and Ladd McConkey. Like, it's not the biggest deal in the world if they don't have him early on in the process. But considering Miami is banking on Jonah to be a starter on the offensive line, Yeah, it is really important for Miami, and it's why this is such a big deal, in my opinion. So you make the call. I want to know, are you concerned about the Jonah Savaiinaea situation in Miami? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I asked this last week when we made this video. Do you have an updated thought? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I said when we talked about this, I am not getting concerned. But now that we have seen another week go by of nobody signing a contract and Tre Harris officially begin a holdout as a second round pick in this draft, I am now starting to get concerned. For the reasons that I just mentioned. If Miami drafted a player that is a luxury, like a running back, which obviously they wouldn't have done, but like you get my point, then it's like, all right, we got other people at the position. Miami does not have anybody else at the position that Jonah Savaiinaea slot into play. This is your starting right guard or left guard. We are unsure of where it is going to be. I think it would be smart for him to play right guard, and then you have James Daniels play left guard. We'll ultimately see which one it is, but Jonah, nonetheless, is supposed to be a starting player for the Dolphins this season. And with training camp starting next week, and the Miami Dolphins being a team that can't really just lollygag around, with how poorly things went last season, and so many question marks about your locker room and your coaching staff and your disciplinarian system, you cannot have rookies and projected starters not reporting the training camp. Like, it just simply is a bad optics. And to me, with Miami needing him badly because of how bad the offensive line was a year ago, they simply can't let it get to this point. And I really just don't understand why Miami wouldn't be willing to maybe cave in and give a fully guaranteed deal. Like, I'm sorry, you traded up from 48 to 38 to get him. So you clearly value him at a very high remark. And his teammates spoke very highly about his work ethic and activity, trying to learn and get better early in this offseason. Like, are we really fighting over a couple million of dollars in the 2028 cap situation? Like, I don't know if that is a smart move for Miami. And I'll mention it once again. Because of how poorly the offensive line was in 2024, the only way that you have a better season in 2025 is if your offensive line improves in a massive way. You were one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive line in football last season. Maybe not the worst. The Texans and Patriots were really, really bad. But you were bottom 5 at bare minimum. Like, you need to get better. And if it doesn't improve, you're just going to be in the same spot you were last season. And we'll look at some numbers here in a second. But how about this deal, Dolphins fans? Huge sale. Little aqua and orange cutoff hoodie here. Usually $55. You can get it right now for $33. Sizes, all of them in stock. Just go to chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage right now before the sale goes away. One more time, chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. We showed this graphic last week, but the PFF grade that Miami's O-line received last year was 56, the 27th mark in the NFL. Absolutely horrific. Their pass block win rate was 56%, 28th in the NFL. Abysmal. Run block win rate, 70%, 26th in the NFL. A consensus bottom 5 offensive line, not in the AFC, in the National Football League. Even more embarrassing numbers here for Miami. As a team, their yards per carry was tied for 27th as they averaged 4 yards a toe. Their rushing first down percentage. How many times were they able to move the chains on a rush attempt? 20.7%. It was the worst in football. Just clearly in signifying even more that when it's 3rd and short, 4th and short, they are unable to pick up the yardage necessary because their offensive line was very, very bad. It's just embarrassing, and it simply cannot happen. Why have the Miami Dolphins struggled in November, December, January over the last 3 years under Mike McDaniel? Well, it's because they have a soft mentality as a ball club, and their offensive line has simply not been good enough. And it goes back to this point of needing Jonah Savaiinaea in Miami, ready to get rolling when training camp gets underway, because he is a rookie projected starter that needs to learn this tough McDaniel offensive scheme and get reps in with his fellow offensive linemen. Because I fully believe that the Dolphins did everything in their power to upgrade the O-line from last year to this year. Sure, you're downgrading slightly from Armstead to Patrick Paul, but you drafted Paul in the second round of 2024, knowing that this was inevitably going to happen. But signing James Daniels to replace Robert Jones is an unbelievable improvement. Going from Liam Eichenberg to Jonah Savaiinaea is hopefully an unbelievably good improvement. And then with Aaron Brewer coming back in his second year of the scheme and Austin Jackson hopefully playing more than 8 games in 2025, this is a much improved offensive line that should maybe not go into the top 10 of the entire NFL, but move from consensus bottom 5 to at least inside the top 20. And even if you just move inside the top 20 of of the NFL offensive lines, well, now we're going to be talking about a group that can actually help Miami play more physical, have a more well-balanced offensive attack, and potentially win more football games late in the season when it's colder and you need to be a physical team that can run the football in November, December, and January. And we're going to round out the show here in a second, but keep it real with me, Dolphins fans. What is your confidence level in this O-line? Maybe you have to factor in the fact that Jonah Savaiinaea is not signed yet. Scale of 1 to 10 for me down in the comments. And maybe I'm naive. Maybe it's bad business. I don't know. I'm sorry. I am fully fine with giving Jonah a fully guaranteed deal. If that is what is required to make sure he's in the building, remember, when you're drafted in the second round, it's not like how much money you're getting. You get a contract based off your draft slot. And it's just only about how much money is guaranteed versus not guaranteed. You are drafting Jonah to be a long-term starter. And it is very rare for a second-round pick to not make it through their entire rookie contract. For example, Liam Eichenberg, who was absolutely horrific in his career, was a second-round pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. He made it through his first 4 years under contract, and heck, the Dolphins gave him a 1-year deal this year to keep him in the building. Like, even though Cam Smith has not been good in his first 2 years, he's not going to get cut entering year 3. So it's like, he's going to be here for at least 3 years. So just give him a fully guaranteed contract. And we just showed the career numbers and grades from Pro Football Focus on Liam Eichenberg. He can't be your starter again. He's an okay, like, I'm not going to cry about him being your interior depth because he's versatile and he knows the scheme. And he's been a starter at multiple different positions. But could you imagine if the Savaiinaea situation continues to get worse and Liam Eichenberg is trouting out there week 1 at right guard to be your starting offensive lineman against the Indianapolis Colts? Like, that would be a disaster. I would be furious. Like, I'm like legitimately trying to wrap my head around him potentially being a starter for Miami on September 7th or September 8th, week 1. And I simply can't do it. I don't know if I could even watch the season. That's just such a bad tone setter to me. Can't do it. Liam Eichenberg can't be a starter. And for that reason is why I'm so fine with just biting the bullet and saying, yeah, I'll give Jonah a fully guaranteed deal if it means that he's showing up ready to roll day 1 of training camp so he can get the reps necessary physically and mentally to be a starter week 1 on this O-line. That's how I feel. And we're going to continue to keep you covered on the situation with daily videos. If Jonah signs his contract, we'll make sure you have a video on that. If this continues to drag out, we'll talk about it as well. So join the channel here as we're a family at Dolphins Today. And if you want to be the most informed Dolphins fan on the planet, don't wait any longer. Join us. All right, first segment in the books. First segment in the books. First segment in the books. Awesome Sauce Clip says, "What's the big news?" Well, there is no. Well, that was pretty big, but the big news is, I wouldn't say it's not big. I said big move in the title is what you're seeing. Big move coming. Is one happening soon? We'll talk about that here in a second. That's our next segment, and then we get exciting news. So no one said big news. Just combining big move potentially coming and exciting news that did actually, I think, is exciting. So, Yoshi, we're going to talk about Asante here in a second. We're going to talk about Asante here in a second. We got 146 people watching. Appreciate y'all. Y'all concerned about Jonah not signing a second round contract right now? Y for N, or yes, or N for no? Zoe's saying no. Listen, you're better than me. You're better than me. Better than me. Drew says no because we're not the Bengals. Yeah, that's bad. I'm not going to lie. That's tough. The Shamar Stewart stuff is brutal. I mean, and at least it's not that bad. At least it's not like just us. Like if we were the only team that didn't sign our second round pick, that would be really bad. At least like 30 out of the 32 second round picks have not signed. It's not just us. But it's concerning for sure because I think our second round pick is probably, if you go through every pick that was made in the second round, I don't think there's a team relying on their second round pick more for impact production early more than the Miami Dolphins. Like maybe Tyler Shuck from New Orleans because like he is their projected starting QB. But like if that situation doesn't go well, they could just say, okay, we'll start Spencer Rattler. It's like not the worst idea. We know that we're probably going to be in the top 5 of the draft next year anyway, even with no matter who starts a QB. So it's like not that big of a deal. But like Miami needs Jonah bad.
I think we just really have to look at the Texans. We have to blame the Texans here. The Texans are
the problem. They were the one who did it
They're
first.
The problem.
Fucking scumbag Texans.
Jeremy Chuggs and the Houston Texans. Go fuck yourself.
Like I'm going through the second rounders and trying to think of like who is dependent on their second round pick potentially more than Miami. Like the Browns linebacker and running back, no. Nicky Manwari from South Carolina, he'll start, but like is he like that make or break for like the Seahawks secondary? No. Luther Burden as wide receiver 3 in Chicago, no. Like I mentioned, Shuck. Maybe a little bit of Donovan Azaraku for the Cowboys out of Boston College. I just don't see another. Okay, RJ Harvey for the Broncos, maybe. Jack Bech for the Raiders. They need another wide receiver. But like Jonah Savaiinaea, I think I would argue, is the most important pick in the second round for their respective team because how bad the offensive line for Miami was a year ago, and they're going to need him to start ASAP.
I think what might hurt a little bit more, though, is out of all those names you just listed, he might have the most leverage as well.
Yeah, him or Shuck probably.
Well, I think with Shuck, I don't know how much leverage he'll have going into this because the Saints would be like, okay, sit out. We'll start Spencer Rattler. We don't care. He's a year 2 guy.
Exactly.
But the Dolphins need Jonah Savaiinaea, like you were just saying.
It's tough, man. It's tough. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. All right. We got 126 people watching. Can we get to 100 likes? Can we get to the triple-digit like mark? If we get to the triple-digit like mark right now, we'll get the second show started. We're going to be talking about some Asante Samuel Jr. here. 13 likes away from 100. We get to 100, we'll get rolling with our next segment. Should be pretty easy to get there. 10 away. 10 away. 10 likes away. I'm going to turn my fan on. It's a little hot in the studio. And then we'll get rolling. 9 likes away. 9 likes away. Let's get to 100, and then we'll start our next show on if a big move could be coming for Chris Grier in Miami. Oh, you mean Warriors dog? That wasn't me saying bad on him. I just don't think he's like, because they already have a pretty solid secondary with like Devin Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. They needed a safety, yeah, but like I wouldn't say safety is the biggest like valued position in the NFL anyway, right? Like we know how important trenches are, and there was only like 2 or 3 second-round offensive linemen taken. One of them was it Trapillo? Yeah, the OT from Boston College, but he doesn't need to start for Chicago because they still have Braxton Jones. And then Ariante Usuri from the Texans. Like, is he a projected starter for them? I don't know if he is. That's why I think Jonah is so important for us compared to everybody else picking in the second round. We did get the triple-digit likes, so I appreciate everybody there. With that being said, let's move on to the second segment on today's show, which is a big move coming for the Miami Dolphins. Let's do it, Lopez. Miami Dolphins training camp begins next week, and I believe a big move could be coming for Chris Grier in Miami because there is a very clear need on this Dolphins roster that needs to be addressed, and a move has to be made. Like, why have we not signed a cornerback yet? After the Jalen Ramsey trade, yeah, we netted Minkah Fitzpatrick back in that deal, but our secondary, specifically at corner, is as rough as it gets. It is, without a doubt, in my opinion, the worst cornerback room in the entire National Football League. Kader Koh is solid. He's a top 10 nickel. But Cam Smith and Storm Duck, as your 2 boundary starting corners, is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. And maybe you move Kader Koh to the outside, and then you just run a lot of 3 safety looks with Davis, Melifanu, and Minkah. But I still don't think that's the most efficient way to go about this. Like, you just have to add someone. And we've been talking about signing a corner ever since Miami didn't take one in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. Like, if Miami drafted a corner in the first, second, or third round of April, I don't think we would be having a discussion as severely as we are right now. But the fact that the only corner they took in the draft was a 5th-round selection, who's like an unproven type of project guy, if you will. That's not me dogging Jason Marshall Jr. I've grown to be high on his future, but I can't bank on him starting. I can't bank on Cam Smith or Storm Duck if this is a team that seriously tries to be competitive this year. So they have to have someone coming down the pipeline with a potential signing. And when a signing does happen, we will have you covered, which means you got to be subscribed and you got to have your notifications turned on. We're 200 subscribers away from 71K. Let's get there ASAP. But make sure you have that notification bell clicked on and turned for all, not just personalized, so you never miss any video we put out, because it is daily content here at Dolphins Today. Now, as we continue to look at who Miami could actually go out and get in this potential big move before training camp, where they're adding a corner, I think Asante Samuel Jr. remains the best option, and maybe it's actually the most likely option. I would always say it's either him or Rasul Douglas at this point in free agency, but maybe the tides are turning towards the 25-year-old former second-round pick out of Florida State. Why do I believe that? Well, Asante Samuel Jr., who is working his way back from neck surgery, will get medically cleared hopefully relatively soon, has been posting highlights from his workouts on TikTok, Instagram, photos, and this one specifically, not a day ago, but when I grabbed this, the screenshots were grabbed was about 4 days ago, so it's 5 days ago at this point. You see it. And then when you go to the comments, one of the top comments was, please go to the Dolphins, even with what your dad said about him. Obviously, last week we did a video about Asante Samuel Jr. calling the Dolphins organization not good, with Chris Grier having no backbone and Mike McDaniel being a pushover. Well, you see there, Asante Samuel Jr. liked that comment, liked by creator. You see his profile picture with the heart on that comment. So that means Asante Samuel Jr. does not believe what his father said about Miami's organization in any type of way, and would be very open to signing with the Fins if the Dolphins approach him and give him a contract worth accepting. And to me, if I could talk to Chris Grier right now, so Chris, listen up, I'm begging you, please get this done. Like, Asante Samuel Jr. is without a doubt the best option at this point in the offseason in NFL free agency if you're going out and signing a corner to play on the outside that can be a day one starter. Is there injury concern? Yes, there is. But his play over the last 4 seasons, when on the field, has shown you the capability of being a top 2 guy in a secondary room. And you go back to 2023, because he was injured a little bit, and I won't really use his stats from last season as a true indictment on how he is. I think he played well in 2023. He shows you good tape in man and zone coverage, specifically having a better season playing man-to-man. He's only 5'10", but he's got long arms. He's physical at the point of attack, and he's capable of playing any type of scheme, which is why I think he would be a good fit in Miami, because Anthony Weaver, we know, has a very versatile kind of system where he might blitz a couple corners and drop linebackers and safeties deep in the coverage. He might play man-to-man. He might play cover 2, which they did a lot last season for Miami. He might play cover 3. Like, you will see such a mixed bag from Anthony Weaver, which is why I think he succeeded so well in his first season as defensive coordinator in the 305. I think Asante Samuel Jr. would be able to fit that perfectly and really provide stability in terms of talent and production in this cornerback room. So make the call. Do you want to sign Asante Samuel Jr.? Type S if you want to sign him. Type P if you are saying, I'm good, I'll go elsewhere. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you could not tell, I will pound the table. I will continue to say it. Asante Samuel Jr. is the best signing the Miami Dolphins could make at the CB position. Because I mentioned it, he's 25. And out of all the free agents left available, he is the youngest with the highest upside and potential long-term fit with the Dolphins. Like, if you sign Asante Samuel Jr., who's, by the way, from the area, that's where he played high school football at St. Thomas Aquinas, you would have the opportunity, if you like what you see, to then re-sign him the following offseason or extend him during the year and have him be one of your staples in your cornerback room for years to come, because he is only 26 years old at the end of this season coming up. Like, it just makes too much sense. It fits the ability to help you win now, but also the future aspect. Because when you look at the other free agent corners you could sign potentially, Rasul Douglas, who Miami has been connected with, we'll talk about him more. Stephon Gilmore, Mike Hill, and James Bradbury. Accomplished corners in their careers, absolutely, but they're all 30-plus years of age. They're likely, if you sign them, one and dones. Sure, they could be good mentors to your young talent like Duck, Cam Smith, Jason Marshall Jr., but wouldn't it be nice to have someone that can grow alongside that young talent like an Asante Samuel Jr., which is why I will always say he's my top option. But the most likely option outside of Asante Samuel Jr. would probably be Rasul Douglas, because we know Miami likes Rasul. They brought him into Dolphins headquarters for a visit around draft time in April. They offered him a contract, which he declined because he felt Miami didn't offer enough money, probably a one-year deal, wanted more potentially. I don't know what the Dolphins offered. We just know they offered a contract that was turned down. But we also know, thanks to Barry Jackson at the Miami Herald and his reporting, that Miami has remained in contact with Douglas over the course of the last couple months in the offseason. So, yeah, it's likely that if they cannot sign Asante Samuel Jr., who might be their top choice, they would likely pivot to Rasul Douglas. Maybe they bump up an offer to Rasul, or just hope that as things progress here in the offseason and into training camp, that Douglas might just say, okay, I accept that offer now, and then he'll join this team. Or maybe he holds out to see if someone gets hurt in training camp and then just joins whatever team suffers an injury. More to come here in a second, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel for daily Dolphins coverage, whether it's news, rumors, or actual signings. We will have you covered here at Dolphins Today. It's a blast to cover the Fins, and I hope you guys join us here at the channel. And here's the part that is getting concerning for me in terms of the cornerback department. Like, veterans are supposed to report for the Dolphins training camp on July 22nd. I would like to sign a corner before then. Like, I want these veterans in the building at the start of training camp so they can get acclimated with their teammates, fully integrated into the scheme of Anthony Weaver, and be ready to roll for the first weekend of September when Miami travels to Indianapolis to play the Colts. Like, Miami needs to have their back end of their defense solidified, and I just don't know if they will be able to have that if they do not sign or address the cornerback need prior to that. Maybe it is Rasul Douglas, who had a tough season last year. Maybe it's Asante Samuel Jr. I don't know. Either way, I think getting a player in the building sooner rather than later is the smart decision if you were the Miami Dolphins. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm not. I just like to be prepared. I think the NFL world is much more about preparation, play calling, schemes, stylistic differences than I think people want to mention. I know a lot of people just look at rosters and talents, but I think coaching and the schemes and systems matter so much in terms of why teams has consistently beat others. And that's why I think I want my corner in here learning our scheme and system. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. Now, I do want to briefly mention Stephon Gilmore because I could be in on Stephon Gilmore too. I know we've talked more about Rasul Douglas and Asante Samuel Jr. than Gilmore, but over the past couple of seasons, like, Gilmore has shown that he's still capable, not only in just being able to stay on the football field, playing 1,000 snaps in 2023, playing 860 snaps in 2024. Like, did his coverage numbers decline in 2024? Oh, absolutely. There's no debating that. And he's the oldest cornerback that we're discussing here, him and James Bradbury, because Gilmore's 34. He's been in the league for a while, former decoy in 2019 with the New England Patriots. Like, he's not my favorite out of the cornerback options, but I am in. Like, this, I am not turning Stephon Gilmore away. Now, with Gilmore being where he is at in his career and age, like, are you, if you're Stephon, just waiting till closer to the season and signing with a familiar team and scheme like Dallas or something like that? As we know, they might be looking for a corner with Diggs' situation up in the air. Or is he waiting for a potential injury to where he could then be catapulted to the top of that specific cornerback depth chart? I don't know. But I would be very open to adding Stephon Gilmore to this roster. I'll explain a little bit more why here in a second. But if you had to pick one free agent corner to sign, who would it be? Would it be Asante? Would it be Rasul? Would it be Stephon? Maybe it's Mike Hilton or James Bradbury. Name your top CB you want to sign. Drop some names down in the comments. Obviously, Asante Samuel Jr. is my favorite without a doubt. But I actually think I would rather have Stephon Gilmore than Rasul Douglas. And for one reason. One, I think Gilmore, even though he did decline and you see the speed and maybe fluidity in his athleticism a little bit down last season, still had a better year than Rasul Douglas. But he's also the more proven veteran guy. Like I mentioned, he won Defensive Player of the Year. Despite that being 5-6 years ago, he's still a really solid, like, long-term corner that maybe could mentor and teach Jason Marshall Jr., Cam Smith, Storm Duck some things. And I know that they've had good veterans in Jalen Ramsey and Kendall Fuller, but are we sure that Jalen Ramsey was actually a good veteran teaching these young guys anything? I don't know. Sounds like he was a headache in this locker room and butted heads with Mike McDaniel and this coaching staff. So it's unclear there. Like, you know what's actually crazy too is that Kendall Fuller, the player Miami cut, he's still a free agent. Would he return to Miami? I wouldn't be that opposed. He had a couple concussions last year, but when he was on the field in his 11 games played, he was solid. Just another option out there. But I would be interested in Stephon Gilmore considering his ability to mentor young guys. All right, that'll do it for today's show. We mentioned it. We'll have you covered with a video when the Dolphins ultimately sign a cornerback here before the season gets underway in September. Well, I'll have the news before we make a video on YouTube over on my social media at Nic_Rohloff. So go follow me over on Twitter right now if you want the best coverage of the Miami Dolphins in between our YouTube content. All right, segment number 2 in the books. We got a super chat too. How about that? We'll get that on screen here in a second. Oh man, I drank a Celsius before this. I'm starting to crash. I'm starting to crash. Starting to crash. Been up since what 2:30 in the morning. I woke up in Boston, Massachusetts today, and now I'm in Dallas, Texas live. Don't say I don't care about you guys, man. What's up, Harrison? We need a tight end too. Yeah, we need a couple things. We need some things, that's for sure. I don't think we're gonna address any of them. Well, I see him. How's it going, my friend? What do we think it offers Samuel contract wise? Probably like 1 year, $5 million. They got like $2 million, $3. I think I saw $3 million in cap space after the update with the Minkah Fitzpatrick edition, stuff like that. So to me, cutting Jake Bailey, that frees up another 1.9 mil. That's kind of where I'm thinking. It's kind of what I'm thinking. We're underrating Waller. Listen, I'm sorry. I just can't, in good faith, believe that a player who did not play football last year because he was retired is going to be an immediate contributor for my football team. And I hope to be wrong. I hope to be wrong. But I can't, in good faith, believe that he is going to come in and be a tight end one like Jonnu Smith was after not playing last season. What's up, Clarence? Michael says, can we trade for Pitts? We could. Will they? Probably not. I would be interested. Shout out to Lil Bad. I can try to find. Hold on. Go. No corner. No corner. Are you in 2025 assets? Sorry, we're just figuring out. Thank you, Lil Bad, for the $2 super chat. You're a legend. If you're in 2025 like assets BG, you can there should be one where it's like black box, no border. I think it is. There we are. Bango, bango, bongo. Bingo, bango, bongo. David says, you are the coolest game announcer ever, question mark. I like to think we're fun on game days, but that's up to you guys. I don't make those decisions. I don't make those decisions. All right, we're going to keep the party rolling here because I need to get rolling before I fall asleep. Is what I need to do. So, what will happen when Jonah asks? We'll see. We'll see. But if you want to scroll back and watch that segment we just filmed. Am I coming to home opener against the Patriots? No, I can't really go to any games. Sorry. Oh, I got my schedule mixed up, by the way. I think we play the Patriots in week 2, right? I think originally when I opened up the live show, I said it was Colts, Bills, Jets, Patriots. I'm pretty sure it's now actually Colts, Patriots, Bills, Jets, right? Right, guys? Is that right? I can't go to any games because I got to be here broadcasting them. I can't be at the games. I wish I could. Go live at the stadium? Hey, maybe one day. Yeah. Listen, my brain is mush right now. I'm sorry for mixing up the first 4 game schedule. I knew we were playing, I just forgot the order. But yeah, it's definitely Colts, Patriots, Bills, Jets. It goes Sunday 1 p.m., Sunday 1 p.m., Thursday night against the Bills again, and then Monday night against the what's it called? The Jets. I actually forgot this, and I want to pull this up, so give me a second. No. I just can't remember. Yeah, okay. I just was unsure if that Thursday night game against Buffalo, if it was in Buffalo or in Miami. Um, I doubted they would give us 3 straight home games. That's why I didn't think so. It's in Buffalo. We start the year on the road, home, on the road, home, on the road, home, on the road, home, neutral site, home, on the road, home, on the road. How about that, sports fans? All right, what we do need to do, Lopez, is we need to get some questions before we start this next segment. The final episode we're doing on the show is a Q&A. So we need questions from you guys. Hashtag Dolphins or Super Chat will get you onto the mailbag. We need to get some questions flowing, folks. Super Chat guarantees a spot. Hashtag Dolphins will be at the mercy of producer Lopez here, but let's get at least 5 questions in the live chat before we get on with this next segment. Let's get some questions in there, man. Cameron with a good question. BR with a question. Good. Way to be, fellas. Way to be. Way to be. Zoe, way to be. Tristan, way to be. Mark, way to be. Big Dog, way to be. You guys are bringing it today. You guys are bringing it. Low bad. I mean, you guys are on fire today. Let's go. We'll see if we have enough questions in a second after this segment, but Lopez, let's do it. When you're ready, let's get into it, baby. Dolphins fans, you should be excited by what these two could potentially be as a duo, but what Jaylen Waddle specifically said about numero uno, Tua Tagovailoa. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. And when you think about these two, you were thinking about the future of the Dolphins, or at least hopefully, right? Like, Tua is in that 26, 27 age range. Jaylen Waddle is in that 26 age range. And you are hopefully going to have that be your QB1 wide receiver 1 connection. And both of them had a pretty down 2024 season after having really, really good 2023 seasons, and in Jaylen Waddle's case, being really, really solid for the entire part of his career. And I can't wait to talk about what Waddle had to say. But I do want to spread the message of Dolphins Today here and get our videos out to more people. So could you help us out by sharing the show? You can do it by posting on Facebook, text it to a friend, Twitter. If you click on post it out to Twitter, you can tag me at Nic_Rohloff. First 5 people to share this video on Twitter and tag me, going to shout out on a show in the next couple of days. But I do want to talk about how Jaylen Waddle sung the praise of our QB1, Tua Tagovailoa. And I know some Dolphins fans feel a certain type of way on Tua. I get it. There's been a lot of things not to like. But when your wide receiver 1 feels that good about Tua, your supposed QB1, you just got to be excited and happy about that. Waddle specifically said on Tua that he's just excited to play, man. I think all of us are. He looks confident, coming out with a different swag. He's got dye in his hair and some other stuff. He looks like he's just eager to play, man. And that's music to my ears because this is a massive year for Tua. It is. And I feel like I said that last year, but it really wasn't. And maybe I did say it, maybe I didn't say it. I'm having a hard time remembering right now. But like, I think I said it was important last year because it's like first year of his, after he got extended, you want to ball out and show that it was worth it. But this one is really important because with how the Tua Tagovailoa contract is structured, the Miami Dolphins could get out of his deal following the 2026 season, which means he's going to be in Miami the next 2 years, but there's nothing guaranteed in the last 2 years of his deal. So if he does not play well in the first year of his contract year or his new contract, well, then you're probably going to start making plans to maybe move on from him. And that's the issue, right? With Tua, it's always about if he could stay on the football field. The one season that he was able to stay on the field and play all 17 games, he led the league in passing with 4,600 yards. And it's just like, all right, we have a guy that completed 69% of his passes, threw for 4,600 yards, and helped the Dolphins win double-digit games and get to a playoff spot. That is extension worthy. But being hurt all the time and having a down year in 2024, well, that makes a lot of Dolphins fans get nervous of Tua's future in the 305. And it's like, to me, I am more or less concerned about his ability to stay on the football field because when you're talking about investing into a quarterback long term, like you are more or less just hoping they're on the field. Like if they're on the field and terrible, at least you know what you have, right? And you could say, all right, that was a bad investment. We clearly missed that, like evaluated this player. But if he can't stay, it's like, what if? And here's the thing, and here's another if. If Tua can't play 15 games or more this season, so he misses 3 games or more, I'll allow 2 games missed. I'll allow 2. He misses 3 or more. You have to look to draft a QB in the 2026 NFL draft because you just can't keep on going in circles of, all right, Tua misses time. Can he stay healthy? We're changing his offseason regimen and diet to keep him more likely to stay on the field. And like I mentioned, like because you can get out of that contract in after 2026, like if he misses time, draft a QB, have that drafted QB sit behind Tua for a year, then you can have that drafted QB be ready to roll in 2027, and Tua is no longer your QB1. That's why it gives you flexibility, and if Tua doesn't prove that he can be your QB1 this year, Miami's probably going to start making the necessary moves to find a new QB1 of the future. So what is your confidence level in Tua for the 2025 campaign? Scale 1 to 10, pin comment on today's show, so let me know. 1 through 10, confidence level in Tua. I have a hard time with Tua because I feel like I defend him to a degree. I feel like I support him, but so do his teammates. Waddle loves him. You see some of these other guys stand up for Tua. Teron Armstead loves him. Jonnu Smith loved him. NFL players respect Tua. They voted him in the top 100 players in the National Football League the past couple of years. Like, can he just go out and prove it to the fan base, please? Like, and the issue is, like, I don't know how much he does have to prove. It really is just staying on the football field. Because when Tua starts games for the Miami Dolphins, they're 38-24. That's pretty damn good. And when I say pretty damn good, that's freaking unbelievably good. It's just that he just misses so much time. So it's like if he can just play 15, 16, 17 games, we got our QB1, man. I believe that. I really do. So Tua, please prove to me and prove to the fan base that 2023 wasn't a fluke, and now you can have 2 out of 3 seasons playing 17 games or more, and 2024 was actually the anomaly going forward in your career. Coming up in a little bit here, we're going to talk about Jaylen Waddle, the wide receiver one, who I think is in line for a bounce back year. But before we talk about Jaylen, I want to make sure you subscribe, because here at Dolphins Today, we have daily content. And when the season rolls around in September, we're going to be here bringing you 2 videos every day, as well as going live on Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays for a Dolphins football game. So subscribe, join the channel today, because we're a family here at Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Jaylen Waddle, after having the worst year of his career in 2024, I think is in line for a major bounce back season for the Fins. I do. And I think he needs to have a solid 2025 as well, because we've talked in depth about how this is going to be Tyreek Hill's last season with the Miami Dolphins, just based off his contract and cap situation. And Waddle needs to prove that he is your wide receiver one of the future. Like, he's had a really good career to this point. This past season was the only year that he did not reach the 1,000-yard threshold. And I know it was a tough year with Tua missing 6 games, and you have to deal with Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle and Skylar Thompson. But it was just an overall down year for the offense in whole, right? It was not a top half offense in the National Football League. Tyreek Hill didn't even reach 1,000 yards. He got close. He was in the high 900s, but he didn't get to 1,000. So it was just a down year for everybody involved with the offense. And I hope that we can just look back and say that was just a throwaway year. But when it comes specifically to Jaylen, he is the future wide receiver one. Tyreek Hill's got 2 years left on his contract, 2025 and 2026. But in 2026, his cap hit is $52 million. And if you cut him prior to June 1st, you save $36 million in space. So, spoiler alert, Tyreek Hill's on the Dolphins in 2026. So then you would be then moving forward with Jaylen Waddle as your pure wide receiver one. And I think Miami is going to start prioritizing Waddle in the offense. They will be starting to run more pass design plays to get Waddle open. So I need him to prove that he can be your wide receiver one. And one thing that I need him to prove to me, and just improve as a whole, is his hands. He has struggled, actually. And despite having good production, he has had a lot of drop issues. You look in every year of his career, his drop percentage. And that is where it ranked amongst NFL wide receivers. Out of players that have received at least 20% of the most targets players in the NFL. So what does that mean? 100 targets, you at least had 20. But the point is, Waddle is not ranked high at all. Not even top 2 wide receiver. But I will say, the top wide receivers usually have more drops, have a higher drop percentage, because they are targeted. Like CeeDee Lamb is in the bottom half of qualified wide receivers in drop percentage, because he's just hyper targeted by Dak Prescott. So I'm not like, oh, this guy stinks because he drops a lot of passes, but I think we can all admit that Waddle has had some drop issues in his career, and he really had a lot of issues last season early in the year. I think he had 6 drops last season charted by PFF. I think he had like 3 or 4 of them in the first 5 weeks. It was pretty rough for Jaylen Waddle early in the season. So you'd like to see that improve from your future wide receiver one, right? But I am not completely panicking, but it is something that I would hope Waddle is improving on as we get further on in his career. We're going to talk about one more thing with Waddle here in a second, but grab your Dolphins cutoff hoodies today, because they're just on sale for a great price. $55 usually. Right now you can get them for $33. Just go to chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. That link's in the description and comments of today's video. Sizes are running out. Take advantage right now while you can. Don't forget chatsports.com/MIA cutoff sale. When it comes to Waddle, and I want to round out the conversation here, Dolphins got away with murder. What is the murder? His contract. Because there was a certain player in our division that got extended this week at the wide receiver spot by the New York Jets named Garrett Wilson. And The Dolphins extended Jaylen Waddle last offseason, so 1 year prior to Wilson. But let's look at the different contract extensions. Both obviously top half picks in the first round. Waddle got a 3-year, $84.75 million extension with $76 million in guarantees, and it comes out to an AAV of $28.25 million. Well, Garrett Wilson this week got a 4-year, $130 million extension, $90 million in guaranteed, so $14 million in guarantees, and 1 more year with an AAV of $32.5 million in annual average value. So when you look at the two contracts, Miami clearly has the better deal by having Waddle under contract for $4.25 AAV less a season and also $14 million less guaranteed. And when you think about the two wide receivers, Jaylen Waddle has had the better career. Yes, Waddle has played 1 more season, 4 versus 3, but you see, it's an 11-game difference for the two players. Waddle has 30 more receptions, which Garrett Wilson would probably top that reception mark in 11 games, but he would not top Jaylen Waddle's yardages. Do I think Garrett Wilson is getting 900 yards in 11 games? I do not think that. Is he getting 6 touchdowns? Maybe. Waddle's the big play guy, and his yard per game is 3 yards higher than Garrett Wilson's. Like, you're looking at these two wide receivers, and I feel like Jaylen Waddle, without a question, has had the better career. And I know he's played 1 more game. He's 1 year older, and he was the higher draft pick. Waddle was 6th overall. But I think this is a good deal for Miami. And I want to throw it up to the fans watching at home. Who's the better wide receiver? Jaylen Waddle or Garrett Wilson? Type JW for our guy. Type GW if you think it's Garrett Wilson. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And although I think it is very close, and ultimately I think you're splitting hairs, both these wide receivers are in the same tier of NFL wide receivers. But if you're going to choose which one you want on your football team, I'll take the one that is getting paid $4 million less per season. Not the craziest amount, but it certainly is helpful. Like, that's another $4 million you can spend elsewhere on your roster in the salary cap league. Like, that's a rare win for your GM, Chris Grier, extending Jaylen Waddle a year early. Now, who knows what Waddle would have been paid if they did not extend him, because he did have a down-ish season last year, but he still would have commanded close to $30 million. You saw what DK Metcalf got. You see what Garrett Wilson got. You see what Chris Godwin was getting offered by teams in free agency. What Mike Evans got. Terry McLaurin wants. Like, getting Waddle early extended was a good move by Grier at that price point, because if you waited, you might have had to pay him what Garrett Wilson just got paid from the Jets. So that's a very rare and good win for Chris Grier and the Dolphins to get Waddle on that extension when they did. That'll do it for this episode of Dolphins Today. If you made it through the entire show and not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You like what we're bringing to the table, at least to some degree. So if you're someone who's a Dolphins fan and wants daily Dolphins coverage, join the channel today. All right, that'll do it for that segment. That'll do it for that one. Garrett Wilson definitely has better hands, but Waddle's more explosive. He's been more productive. Like I said, I think you're splitting hairs. Like, if you say Garrett Wilson, I'm not going to complain. If you say Jaylen Waddle, I'm not going to complain. But like I said, if I'm building a team, I'll take the guy that's making $4 million less money. That's how I feel. Lopez, where are we at, my friend? Oh, then money. We don't need to ask for any more. Thought we were going to maybe have to ask for a little bit more, but looks like that's not the case. F it. F it. The real ones get questions in. The only one I'll say is let's make sure we get the person who super chatted. Yeah, his question. Okay, cool. Because like even though he didn't ask a question in his super chat, for him sending a super chat on the live show, that to me means you're getting into the front of the line. Front of the line. All right, Lopez, when you're ready, we're going to get into our final segment on today's live show, which is a Miami Dolphins Q&A mailbag time. Lopez, when you're ready, let's do it. All right, let's do it. Welcome to the Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we're going to do a Miami Dolphins mailbag. Training camp getting started this week, and I wanted to answer some questions from Dolphins fans from our Tuesday live show before TC gets underway. We'll start with my guy, Lil Bad. Is Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel, their jobs on the line? I have one word answer, but I'll elaborate. Absolutely, Lil Bad. We have talked ad nauseum about this. I thought that it would have been completely justifiable to fire Chris Grier. Chris Grier should have been fired. And it would have been justifiable to also fire Mike McDaniel. Is it a little bit harsh to do that if you did it last season? Yes, because he's had a winning record over 3 seasons and he's taken you to the playoffs twice. But when you usually hire a new GM, that new GM is usually going to want to have a say as their new head coach or their next head coach. And maybe they would want McDaniel, maybe they wouldn't. But that's the type of hot seat stuff we're talking about here. And if Miami misses the playoffs again this season and wins like 7 games, well, yeah, I would expect both of those two to be gone by this time next offseason. So I do, in fact, believe Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel's job is on the line going into the 2025 season. Zoe with a question. Who is the most important player, defense, and offense on this team? Okay, good question. Start offense. Answer is Patrick Paul, the second-year offensive tackle from Houston. Why do I say Patrick Paul? Because Teron Armstead, despite missing some time last year, he was a top 5 left tackle in the NFL. And your offensive line was terrible. So if you had a top 5 left tackle in the entire NFL and you still had a bottom 5 O-line, well, how bad would your O-line be if you declined at that position? And although you should have improvements at right tackle with Austin Jackson being healthy, hopefully, improvements at offensive guard with Savaiinaea and James Daniels over Robert Jones and Eichenberg, if Patrick Paul is abysmal at left tackle, that can be detrimental to your offensive line. And we have talked so often about how this offensive line needs to be good in order for Miami to have a good 2025 campaign. So Patrick Paul is my answer on offense. For defense, tough one. I'll go Cam Smith, Storm Duck. I mean, listen, one of those two players is going to have to play outside corner for Miami, regardless if they sign a free agent corner. One of them is going to have to at least play. And if they are terrible and Miami has a bottom 5 cornerback unit in the NFL, which is what it projects to be right now, in a conference that features Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, we're going to be in trouble. So I'm going with one of the 2 corners and Cam Smith and Storm Duck on defense, and then Patrick Paul on the offense. You want more coverage on the Miami Dolphins? Well, make sure you follow me over on X. My handle is @Nic_Rohloff. You see it there. You see it there. I post daily content on this football team in between our YouTube videos. And if any news happens on the Dolphins, I have you covered on Twitter before we make videos on this channel. So for wall-to-wall coverage, go follow me over on X. BR. Hypothetically, if Tua's healthy, okay, if the Dolphins sign a vet CB, how do you think the season will turn out? I think 10 wins. 10 wins. I think I predicted in my initial schedule prediction or record prediction, I think I predicted 10-7, maybe 11-6. I forget. As we're filming this live, I'd have to go back and look. But let's say they sign Asante Samuel Jr. think the defense is going to be good enough to survive and be a top half unit in the NFL because I firmly believe in our front seven of Jordan Brooks, Tyrell Dodson, Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Kenneth Grant, Zach Sealer. I think that's a really freaking good front seven. So I believe in our ability to be a physical defensive team up front. And if our secondary can at least just hold up and not be absolutely atrocious, you're going to have a top half defense in the NFL. And I would have to imagine, if Tua is healthy, that they will have a top half offense in the National Football League. And with a relatively easy schedule, I think we're going to be able to, at least early on in the season, really make some noise. So I'm going 10-7, 11-6. They make the playoffs. Do they win a playoff game? I don't know. It would have to depend on who they play. Ideally, that you're the top wild card team. You play the AFC South winner of Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indianapolis, because they're likely going to be the worst one. And maybe you get a win on the road in a dome environment or a warm weather environment like Jacksonville or Tennessee. Cameron, do you think we could still get Kyle Pitts or not since they signed a former retiree? You're referring to the Darren Waller trade. I would like to say they could get Kyle Pitts, but if we're going to be honest, they probably will not. I don't think the Falcons are actually going to end up trading Pitts, considering their backup tight ends are absolutely terrible. And it's like, if they got rid of Pitts, what is their plan at tight end? You can ask the same thing for Miami. Like, this is a pretty bad group. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know some people are saying that I'm a little bit too low on Darren Waller. I am just not putting my faith, and I'm not putting stock into a guy that didn't play football last season. I just can't do it. So with him not playing football last year and then having to lean on Julian Hill and Farrell Brown, like, that's a rough look. Now, I do actually think Miami won't run a lot of personnel with tight ends. Like, I think they're going to mostly use like Malik Washington and Nick Westbrook-Akini over the middle of the field, almost as like the Jonnu Smith replacement in the aggregate, and then just use Julian Hill and Farrell Brown in the blocking game maybe. But I would love to get Kyle Pitts. I would trade a third or fourth rounder for Pitts and take the flyer on him because I think he would be absolutely awesome in our scheme and system. But we'll ultimately see. All right, more questions to be answered, but it's my turn to ask you guys a question. Who is your top Dolphins breakout player? Let me know. Throw the name down in the comment section on who you think could break out for Miami. Big Dog, can we create cap space to sign Asante Samuel Jr. and Stephon Gilmore? Both, probably not. After the moves where you ship out Jonnu, you ship out Jalen Ramsey, you take back Minkah Fitzpatrick and Darren Waller. I think I saw that the cap space for Miami is like 2.4, 2.8, somewhere around there. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. There's just no clear-cut answer, unfortunately, out there. It's tough. But you can create 1.9 mil by releasing Jake Bailey, which should be an inevitability at this point. You can create some other cap space, very minimal, but you can, by like getting rid of like Channing Tindall. Like, that gets you $1 million or 900 something K. And then you can probably get one. Two, no, because I would assume both of them get 1 year, $5 million. Maybe Asante gets 2 years, which I doubt it. But maybe 1 year, $5 million for each. So I don't think Miami can free up $10 million, but one of them for sure. And I'm very open that I want Asante Samuel Jr. more than anyone else. But Stephon Gilmore would be a probably close number 2 out of any of these free agent corners still available. Zoe coming in with another question. Devon Achane have 1,000 rushing yards this year and 750 receiving yards this year. No, I do not. That would be pretty insane if he did. Listen, Devon Achane, and I want to double check and get the numbers completely right, has never had 1,000 rushing yards. No, he had a 900 in 2024 and 800 in 2023. And with Jalen Wright being added more into the fold, Alexander Madison, and Ali Gordon, I just don't believe that Achane is going to be able to amass 1,000 rushing yards. And 750 receiving yards is flat out crazy for a running back. He was like top 3 in receptions last year for Miami, and he only had like 500 receiving yards. So I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to those numbers. Will he have over 1,000 all-purpose yards and double-digit touchdowns like he had last year? Absolutely. But I don't think he's going to get close to those numbers. Cameron, Since we have a lot of D linemen, who do you think gets cut or does anyone get released? Hashtag Dolphins. Well, the funny thing about our defensive line room is that we have a lot of players, but I think most of them make it. Like, think about this. Zach Sealer is obviously going to make the team. Kenneth Grant's obviously going to make the team. Benito Jones is going to make the team. Zeke Biggers and Jordan Phillips were draft picks this year. Phillips is a lock, so there's 4. But who gets it outside of them 4? Like, if you keep 5 interior defensive linemen, is it Zeke Biggers? Like, I probably lean so, right? Like, maybe Matthew Butler, sure. I doubt UDFA Alex Huntley, maybe Matt Dickerson. But if you're looking at interior defensive line, Miami kept, I believe, 5 last season at the start of the year with Campbell, Sealer, Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones, and I feel like there was one more I'm missing. So I think there was 5 last year initially, but those 4 definitely made it on the first 53-man roster cut down. So if there's 5 again, I lean the 3 starters and then the 2 rooks and Phillips and Biggers, but maybe Matthew Butler. I'm not sure. Make sure you are subscribed. We film this Q&A on our live show Tuesday. We go live every Tuesday on the channel. So if you want more Miami Dolphins coverage, join us for that. And if you missed it, make sure you turn on notifications and are subscribed. Maurice, why don't people see that we were the winner in the Jalen Ramsey trade? He was gone anyway. We got a 5th and Minka for Jonnu Smith. Well, I wouldn't say that, but this is what I would say. This is obviously the full trade details. I think we did win the deal because I look at it in 2 separate deals, right? I say, all right, Ramsey was traded for a 5th-round pick. And we knew Ramsey was gone regardless. So it's like getting a 5th back and the Steelers paying most of that money in contract, that's a good deal. And then a separate deal of Jonnu Smith and a 7th for Minka, it's a pretty good deal too, considering Jonnu wanted a higher payday and Minka's just a better overall football player. So I think we won the deal. I look at it as in 2 separate trades, Jalen for a 5th and then Jonnu and a 7th for Minka. But that's just me. I think Fitzpatrick's going to be really good for Miami this season. I'm excited to see how he's used in this Anthony Weaver scheme and how he is woven, intertwined with Iafatu Melifanu and Ashton Davis and the rest of the safety room. It's going to be fun to watch for sure. And I do think Miami ultimately made out pretty well in this trade. All right, forecast it. The Vegas line for the Dolphins win total this year is 8.5. Will Miami go over and win 9 games or more? Or will they go under, where they win 8 games or less? Get your predictions down in the comments. Tristan, do you think any of the CB rumors or new tight end rumors are actually going to happen? CB, yes. Like corner or like tight end rumors, I think maybe are probably maybe overblown at this point. And I want them to add another tight end, but I don't think they will based off the cap situation. But cornerback rumors have to happen. Like, your cornerback room can't be Cater Kohu, Cam Smith, and Storm Duck. That's just absolutely abysmal, man. It is. So, I do believe, without a shadow of doubt in my heart and brain, that Miami ultimately signs one of a Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, someone in that category. So, I do think cornerback gets added. Tight end, that's a little bit more unlikely if you ask me. That'll do it for today's mailbag, but we're still answering questions on social media. Make sure you follow me over on Twitter. You can also hit us up over on Instagram. @Dolphins Today IG is the handle. We're at 50 followers away from 1,000. When we get to 1,000, we will be doing an Instagram Q&A. Put short form and more posts over there in between our videos. So, like I say, you want wall-to-wall 365 coverage of Miami Dolphins football, follow me on Twitter, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram as well. All right, I'll do it on today's live show. Appreciate everybody who tuned in and hung out with us. It's been a very fun, good live show, good live audience for the most part in mid-July. And you guys were a blast in the chat today. So we're awesome. A lot of fun to hang out with y'all. If y'all super chat, if you want to send a super chat, we'll stay live for a little bit longer. like maybe a minute though. Like we got to kind of go. So we have a little bit of a team outing tonight, which I can't go to, unfortunately. But Lopez, we know, is going to get down and dirty over there.
Hey, 2 hours of free drinks. Treating it like we did back in college.
Lopez is going to be hammered at the bar.
It's going to be a great time.
Yeah. I unfortunately can't go, but I know the rest of the crew does, so I'm not going to hold them hostage.
I'll have a drink for you. First one's for Rolly.
First one's for me. Appreciate that, Lopez. You'll be drinking for 2 tonight, as you always are. As you always are. That's why we call him Local Lopez. So we'll give it like another 20 seconds. If a super chat comes in, we'll stay live. If not, we'll sign it off. See you again next Tuesday. Who would you put at kick return and punt return? It's going to be Malik Washington. At least I would anticipate it. Him and D. Eskridge are likely going to be those 2 return men. That would be my guess. Maybe Jalen Wright could get involved on kick return. Probably wouldn't do punt return for Jalen, but Malik Washington and Wright for kick return would be pretty fire. Can't lie. All right, sounds like that's going to do it on today's live show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. 1,700 strong. You guys were legendary. Like I said, see you next Tuesday with another live show. We'll have videos obviously going out every day in between. Till next week, go Fins.